Morning, welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke, and today is the 17th of December, 2024. I'm just went down to get, still haven't gotten quite past pumpkin spice season downstairs in terms of the coffee that I have for the brewer downstairs. As you can see, it's quite dark, so I have, and good morning, Alex. I was just saying it's really dark in here, so I have, because it's very foggy out and everything, we're going to have those few days of fog, before, and it's going to be warm today, though. It's going to be close to 60, so that's good. Hopefully I can get out and get some errands done today, but it's been very wet. I had to go meet a friend in a restaurant on the side of a mountain yesterday. Was it the Schooley's Mountain? There's a restaurant there that we wanted to go to, and I wouldn't have to go that far up, but Schooley's has some of these kind of like hairpin turns. I mean, you're not going to go off a cliff or anything, but it's just like you have to go. Good morning, foggy here too. Yeah, we've got this kind of, I don't know, I can now do the weather report. There's some kind of an air mass coming in. It's like a warm air mass, but there's going to be Arctic cold coming in behind it. So we're going to, the day that they're supposed to come clean my boiler, which they were supposed to do, by the way, on the 8th. That's unnerving. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and I mean, it's, they were supposed to clean the boiler there on the 8th, and they said, oh no, we're going to have to postpone to the 22nd. And of course, the 22nd, I don't think it's going to get warmer than 24. So, like for UK people, and good morning, Melissa. For UK people, like 24 is what? It's like minus, it's like minus 10-ish, so, and that's going to be the high for the day. So, yeah, I imagine, I know we tend to suffer from headaches, so I'm hoping that's not going to increase headache season there. Good morning. Yeah, it's very, it is like I said, it's very, very kind of foggy morning. I did wake up in time and I did meditate, and hello, Leela, good morning. Figure I'll wait for a few people to join, because I had a very interesting night last night. I had an epiphany last night. Okay, remember we were talking about how this full moon was going to bring epiphanies, right? And last night I've been having different communications with people over the last few days. Some of them are WhatsApp messages from people. Some have been just other communications I have. I don't really want to say too much about them. An aha moment. Yes, exactly. And I don't want to say too much about where they came from, because, and it was more than one person. I mean, that's usually the way it is. I'm the one who looks for the patterns, right? So there's been something, and then I had a whole series of, I know I had dreams last night, but it's not so much, it was weird because it's not so much that I had dreams where, events A, B, and C happened in this dream, right? It's more like I was seeing people in situations, and it was more like I had somebody talking to me, explaining to me these situations, and some of them are family situations. So, which for me, that's where my Pluto is in my chart, is 4th house. So I think it's talking about certain family things, not only in my family, but in some of the in-laws on, like for my sister and stuff. Cause I no longer have in-laws. They're the outlaws now, right? I don't have in-laws anymore because I'm not married anymore. But I mean, from that perspective, but like my sister's husband's family and different things that have gone on. They're just different stuff, and it was almost like trying to show me like what the pattern was, like where everything fit together. And I made some notes when I got up. So right now we've got just the three of us. So we'll see who else jumps in. Usually Suda jumps in and a few others, but again, yeah, I don't know what everybody's schedule is today and who's going to make it on, and who's sleeping in, which kudos to them for doing that. Okay, so let me find my notes here. Okay, what was floating around were thoughts about family, and that certain things that I'm calling rot were trying to break old patterns. And the epiphany was this. The epiphany is the old way is dead. And this is something that I think a lot of people are going to relate to here. This is not just about me. The way of coping with stress and trauma is dead. The way of behaving and reacting is dead. And to those who have lived through a lot of trauma, which everybody, I don't know, I think people who are doing spiritual work are people who have lived through some kind of severe wounding in their life, whatever it is, whether it's severe loss, whether it's severe, it could be parental stuff, family stuff, whatever it is, okay? We all have a certain kind of wounding, ex relationships, whatever we've done. People are frustrated because the things that helped before or solve things before no longer work. That's what I keep hearing across the spectrum. This doesn't work anymore. This doesn't work anymore. This doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what they've been trying to tell us. It doesn't. No, that's the Uranus moment, the Tower moment. This doesn't work anymore, right? And thus it's causing anxiety, discomfort, and depression for some people. This is because we're at a new place, okay? But instead of feeling joy, we now expect new pain because the past pattern was when you walk into uncertainty, you're right there on the mark is what Alex is saying. Yeah, it's, or whoever's telling me that this is what it is. I mean, in a certain way, that should be, I almost feel like I'm being Captain Obvious here, but on the other hand, it's not, because we're seeing it, but we're not seeing it, right? And so this was kind of like a moment of seeing it. We expect the cycle to repeat. So we start doing the same thing. So we're confronted with something new, and our guides will say, okay, this is a joyful time. And you're like, yeah, it's a joyful time. And we immediately kind of go into it in the same way that we always have. And then when things don't happen or they fall short, we're like, well, what the heck? I thought this was supposed to be a joyful time. I thought all this was going to be great. I thought all of this was going to, What the guides are saying is that it's not going to repeat. But we don't believe them. We don't believe them. To break the loop is up to us. Okay? So it's a lot of this, the shift is not even so much in the externals. It can be a shift in the externals. People could, get new jobs or start new relationships, or, family things could, I don't know, there could be conversations. There's a lot of ways in which this could be solved, right? But it says, breaking the loop's up to us, but it's not an occasion for sorrow. It's an occasion for joy. Those who have done this through Rahani, the Rahani is actually doing its work. Okay, that's what they're saying. Rahani is doing what we asked it to do, because we say, I want to open my heart. I want to be vulnerable. I want to break out of the cycle of despair or of feeling like I never have enough. And the angels are like, okay, that means you can't do things the same way you did before, because the kind of continually I have to keep, it's like having, I think the metaphor that kind of came into my head was, if you are, this light feels very garish. I'll turn it this way. Let's just say you're driving somewhere, all right, and you're in your car. Now, obviously, if all of us know how to drive, my driving issues notwithstanding, but just take it as kind of like you go out for a drive, and let's just say you're on a rainy road, foggy, rainy road like today, and let's just say you're on like a country road and your car slips and goes into a ditch. Okay, so now we would have so that's a stressful event. That's a crisis we have to deal with. So we might try to back the car out. If we have a phone and if our phone is working, so let's just add the extra layer of, oh, my phone battery just died, right? Because then you would just call, somebody to come pull you out. And so, so then it's kind of like, okay, well, now what do I do? So it's almost like what is the answer there? Now, I've often talked about, you'll hear, actually, I have not. There's the cliche that necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so we're talking about being in a phase where we are, where we're feeling provoked. Remember, the word provoke comes up over and over again. This Grand Cross energy. You're being provoked, 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 provoked. What is provoking you to do is to find the different solution. Now, but we cling to the way that we did it because that's the way that we've learned to respond to trauma. Good morning, Suda. Yeah, we're we're in the middle of my big epiphany from last night, so I'll try to summarize it again, so get you what you missed. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of like and the thing is, we unconsciously are doing the same thing, because they'll say, oh, insanity is just doing the same thing and expecting the same result. The thing is, we think we're doing something different. That's where the problem comes in, because we think we're doing something different. We think that we know that there's a new beginning ahead of us, but so we're like, great, I'm ready to charge into this. Good morning. I'm ready to charge into this new beginning, and good morning. But as we charge into this new beginning, it's like, and good morning, Joanne. We're charging into this new beginning, but the thing we haven't resolved. A lot of times I think when we say, well, you've got to clean up old business, people are looking at that and they're saying, oh, well, cleaning up old business means that, that I have to, that means like, oh, I have to literally finish like some project, or, oh, I literally have to clean out this closet, or I literally have to. That's not what they mean. Now, I got a further message this morning, and I'm going to read it to you from the Book of Runes, because I think this kind of is spot on with what we're talking about here. Okay. And again, for people who are joining late, I had a major epiphany last night. So, all right. So the rune is Inguz, and Inguz is new beginnings. This rune is akin to the moon, the intuitive part of our nature, with its urge towards harmonizing and adjusting the sphere of personal relationships, something else that's coming up. Inguz embodies the need to share, the yearning to be desired, and a search after similarities. The completion of beginnings is what Inguz requires. Now, this is the step we're all missing. Drawing this rune may mark a time of joyful deliverance, a new life, and a new path. A rune of great power, receiving it means you now have the strength to achieve completion, resolution from which comes a new beginning. How many of you have gotten the world card and things like that in readings? It's like, hey, new beginning, or the aces, right? We get the aces a lot, the ace of pentacles a lot, right? Above all, completion is crucial here. It may be timely that you complete some project now. If so, make it your first priority. Perhaps a difficult state of mind can be clarified or resolved. The appearance of this rune indicates that you must fertilize the ground for your own deliverance. All things change, and we cannot live permanently amid obstructions. Inguz signals your emergence from a closed chrysalis state. As you resolve and clear away the old, you will experience a release from tension and uncertainty. You may be required to free yourself from a rut, habit, or relationship, or from some deep cultural or behavioral pattern, or some activity that was quite proper to the self you are leaving behind. There's the key right there. Deep cultural behavior pattern, deep habit. Those are the hard things. Movement can involve danger, and yet movement that is timely leads out of danger. The time has come to enter the delivery room. We've had that metaphor forever, right? Another of the cycle runes, Inguz counsels preparation, being centered and grounded, freeing yourself from all unwanted influences, and seeing the humor. You are indeed prepared to open to the will of heaven and await your deliverance with calm certainty. Okay, so that's the Book of Runes. And literally, Inguz preceded Dagaz this morning. And Dagaz is like, your life will not be the same after that. And yeah, that is the thing that I feel. I feel like we've been a lot of times we end up operating in a loop. We may have different players, we may have different actors, we may have different circumstances. It may be that there's different people involved in the equation, right? Or I don't know, a different job, a different house, a different person, a different space that we've gone to, physical space that we've gone to in some way, a different kind of, there may be some things that are different, new people maybe. Like there's differences. But the thing is, we keep playing those out, whatever the original thing was that kind of made us, that has taught us that this is the way, whatever we're doing, that's the way to find safety, that's the way to find security, that is the thing, that is the go-to, that is the rock I can cling to in the storm, right? It's saying that rock is actually toxic to you. It's like you actually don't want to do it that way anymore. But then the question then becomes, well, how the heck do I do it then? And that's where a lot of the frustration is, because the phrasing I'm hearing over and over again, and I've heard this in multiple places, so this is not one person, I don't know how to fix it. That's the phrase I keep hearing. I don't know how to fix it. And they're saying, yeah, because you've got a tool, a trusted, loyal tool that you've used, and that tool, it's you're trying to hammer a nail, and you're using, like, I don't know, a wrench. Like, you're not. There's got to be a different way. Like, you need, and it's not even about coping. And that's the weird thing. It's about trying to find a way of life where we're not coping with the hammer. Yeah, right? I mean, I'm trying to come up with metaphors here. I don't know if I'm doing a great job. But let me just see if I have the end of this. This is stuff I wrote down this morning. Okay, so I stopped with the Rouhani is actually doing its work for people. But because we interpret new beginnings, as much as we see them as possibility, that's why it keeps telling us to look at it as an adventure, right? We look at it more like it's going to be another crisis. So we're preparing for a crisis. Because we insist that our defenses are the things that bring us peace, comfort, and security, when the truth is actually the opposite. Okay? So that's the thing that, and again, to some people you may say, well, yeah, of course doing it the same way isn't going to bring it. But we do it that way. We say, this is the way that I have to do things, and even if it means going into a space that where we feel wounded or it feels painful, sometimes our wound and our pain brings us comfort, because it's almost like we want to comfort ourselves in our wound, right? And so we withdraw into that place, and we may feel that other people around us don't understand us, or they don't understand our wound, or they don't, that for whatever reason, it's that Five of Pentacles. Did it come up again this morning? Let me just see if I have it. I think it did. Let me find it. Yeah, it's this card, It's this card that says we're on the outside, that people don't understand us, that we are not, or that, and again, there's the thing of, we get this card about not listening to a lot of other voices. We kind of confuse ourselves about where we're at. But the thing is, it's kind of saying, like, you see all the messages we've been getting, and when they're saying be joyful, and you're like, yeah, but look at all this shit that's going on. Look at the bad thing that happened. Look at the loss. Look at all these things. And they're like, we're always approaching everything as if, everything is terrible, And again, this is not an occasion for bypassing, but there seems to be a lesson here about, and again, I can't make a general statement for everybody, because everybody's dealing with a different type of pain, trauma, crisis, wound, whatever, okay? And actually, I have to thank my one friend who was WhatsApping me last night. She knows who she is. I don't want to say names of people with stuff like this, but she had said to me, yeah, that was kind of the thing, that a lot of times when people are in trauma, it's like whatever's made people feel comfortable, that's the thing that they continually go back to. And the dreams I was having last night, it was trying to put pieces together with family stuff and other things. Alex said, would you believe me? I told you I got similar messages yesterday. Of course I believe you. I actually had this conversation with my partner about this yesterday morning. And Ellen, good morning. You've joined. Yeah, I saw that you were sending me a couple messages, Ellen, and that's why I haven't responded to them, because I'm here. No, but it's, but yeah, that's kind of what the epiphany was last night, though. The epiphany was that we're not doing things. We're continually. I'm feeling it's a lot of situations where when we are faced with the new, when we're faced with new possibilities, we're facing it with the same with the thing from the past. So if, like, for example, somebody meets somebody and there's a possibility for a relationship, they're like, oh yeah, but this happened in these last 3 relationships, so this person's gonna suck, and I'm just gonna stay away. Alex said, I had this vision of like a new coach cover on an old couch. It's the same couch. Excellent. Yeah, that's a really good metaphor. Yeah, you're just kind of, yeah, new wine and old skins. Is that what it is? Couch. Yes. Figured that's what it meant. Yeah. New wine and old skins. I mean, that's the thing. It's if you put new wine in old skins, it's going to burst. That's the thing. It's saying, because when it says that there's something that needs to be corrected, that's there's the correction that needs to happen. It's like, okay, the problem isn't the new circumstance or even whatever the loss might be. That specifically isn't the thing. It's the way in which we interpret and contextualize and respond to the thing. And we have to recognize that the response is something that may have come out of a place, like when we were in a certain position, like that may have been the appropriate response, okay? It's not saying like, oh, you were bad and you did it wrong all this time. It's not that, that's not what they're saying. It's saying like, yeah, you may have gone through something very difficult. You may have learned ways to pull yourself up and have strength in the middle of all of these things. And it's great. I mean, it's great that you had that and that you had this way of managing the issue. But what it's saying is, it's okay, that issue is over. You don't have to manage it that way, because the way you're managing it is actually just causing you more anxiety and causing you more frustration. It's like what I'm saying, it's the mind getting involved. When you are seeking to do work to open the heart space, and I don't remember who, I mean, I've been talking to a bunch of different people lately, and I feel like some of my conversations kind of overlap, because that's kind of how things go. But somebody had been saying to me, I don't know, maybe it was even you, Alex, I don't remember, but it was kind of like the heart space, when you do Rouhani work especially, the opening of the heart space, it sounds like a very nice little thing, but the opening of the heart space says, okay, if we're going to have an open heart, then we can't manage everything as if it's a crisis. And again, that's not saying that there aren't crises. That's not to say that we haven't been wounded, damaged, hurt, and that we don't need to acknowledge that and be in it. Like, we're not saying that, oh, well, let's all bypass it and pretend it's not there. No, they're definitely not saying that. Alex is saying we can look at it with new eyes. Entirely different situations call for new vision. Right. The question is, though, how to have the new vision. Because a lot of times when the mind really tries to get involved in this, it just kind of, because again, mind acts in a causal way, cause and effect. Well, and it's based on past experience. Oh, okay, well, I'm here, I'm in this situation. This situation looks like all these 10 situations before me. So therefore, the action in those situations was B, so that's the action I'm going to perform now. Okay? That's the way that we tend to do things. And we don't necessarily do that in such an analytical, rational way. It's more of an automatic thing. In the same way that we have like triggers for certain things, right? If people say certain things at certain times, we have an automatic response to it. It could be an emotional response. It could be a thought. It could be something because, you know the old game that they have, like in Freudian and Jungian therapy, where they say a word and you free associate. Like, what are the words? What are your associations with these things? Associations actually mean a lot, and we have a lot of associations. So it's not just even things people say, but we get into certain situations and we say, okay, I'm facing this new situation, but you may be facing it as though you're facing, the old you is facing this situation. That's what I think that a lot of it is. But then of course the next question that people always ask is like, okay, well, if I'm not meant to just do it the old way, how do I do it a new way? And the answer seems to be you can't do it the new way until you recognize what the old way is, until you see what the pattern is. And once you see, and the thing is, but even seeing it doesn't necessarily mean we want to let go of it. The devil card in a lot of cases. I don't necessarily want to let go of this thing. And so I don't know. I'm gonna want to do a couple readings on this. Alex, do you think that's why play is emphasized? Maybe looking at things with the innocence of a child. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, exactly. Like looking at it, right. That's why they're telling us to look at it with the eyes of a child, because when you look at things with the eyes of a child, it's new, it's fresh, it's a new way to, you're looking at it as though you're seeing it for the first time. I mean, now you could argue children are not a blank slate, they're not tabula rasa, right? But by the same token, you want to look at it as though you're a kid, like noticing it and trying to play with it again. And play also is about experimentation. What would happen if I did this instead? What would happen if I did it this way? What would happen if I thought about it this way? I'm not getting it. What else is there? Well, right. That's the thing. what else is there to do? There's that, and it doesn't mean, by the way, that everything that we're doing is wrong and we have to throw it away. Okay, I think that might be another thing. But when we run into a crisis over and over again, it's because we are unconsciously reliving something over and over again. We are unconsciously deciding that a certain situation has to be managed in a certain way. And the question then becomes, and again, it's not going to be the same thing for everybody. And everybody kind of comes to whatever it is. What are you going, what's the, it might be helpful if actually I go back and I tell you what I said before, because I know you came in kind of late with us. So the message I got last night was, the old way of doing things is dead. The way of coping with stress and trauma is dead. The way of behaving and reacting is dead. And if you've lived a trauma, then people are frustrated right now, because the phrase that I kept hearing was, I can't fix it. I don't know how to fix it. And I'm hearing it from multiple people. So if somebody watches this and says, oh, I think I said that, well, you're not alone. A lot of people are saying that right now. And so the frustration and anger is, I don't understand. This is the way to handle this situation and it's not working. Okay? That's the question. And the point is that what the guides are saying is, well, the reason that it's not working is because that's not the way to do it anymore. So then that's what I said. The next question is, like you're saying, what else is there? Well, yeah, that's the question. But that's because we are so certain that sometimes the things that we are certain about may come from a space, and oftentimes the way that we have learned to cope with stress, trauma, and so forth, the kind of strength that we have, often comes from a space of, again, I was wounded in this situation. I stuck my hand in the fire here, and I got burnt. So I'm not, this is how I'm going to manage this from now on. I'm not going to stick my hand in that fire, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. But sometimes it's a case of you think you're sticking your hand in a fire, but that's not actually what's happening. I don't know. Again, it's kind of amorphous because everybody's going to be different in how this affects them. But let me do some of these and let's see what kind of clarity we can get on it for people. But the idea is that the clarity here comes from the fact, so what we're being called to do right now is to say, if we look at the areas of our life that are very complicated, what is it that we need to do that's different? And in some cases, it may just be a case of we just either have to leave something alone, or something that maybe we've occupied a lot of our time with, because we're seeing a lot about yielding control. We're seeing a lot about we're seeing a lot about play, like Alex said. We're seeing a lot about adventure. These are different ways of looking at things, and we may say to ourselves, oh yeah, of course, I can look at it like this. But we're not. We're still doing it the old way. Yes, yielding. Right. Because that would be the more feminine way, right? If we're going to talk about it from that perspective. It kind of demands that we manage things differently, and that instead of being the focus necessarily on the other people, it's more of a focus on what's going on in us and how does that reflect. Not because we're bad in any way, but just because, but kind of like, okay, how have we been responding to things? And I also feel like this is not going to be an entirely intellectual exercise either. Not like I'm going to sit here for a few hours and think about what I'm doing, and then I'm going to consciously decide to take these 5 steps. I don't know that that's the way to do it either, because there's a lot about connecting with the heart space and with the intuition. And Ellen's saying, this is also relevant to me right now. Well, yeah, this seems to be the thing, and that's going on right now. And so, okay, remember too, we're in Mars retrograde. Mars retrograde is about rethinking action, okay? I mean, action, whatever it is. We always think of Mars as aggressive action, but it doesn't have to be aggressive action. But it is defensive action, okay? So it's saying, rethink that. Where are the places where you don't necessarily have to have the defenses up and the walls up? Where can you be, let's jump into our reading instead of me repeating. I won't kind of wax on. Okay, here's Mabel, okay? slowing down. We have our turtle right now. Slowing down. Okay, so that's kind of the step one here. We're in a space where, and slowing down may be the obstacles that we're facing. The fact that, we're trying to move ahead and the ways in which we're moving ahead. It's like, back to our car metaphor, the car that's not going to start, right? So we're Mabel, yay. I know, yeah, exactly. Mabel this morning. What are the ways that we have, and the thing is, that's the thing that makes a lot of times makes people uncomfortable, because they say, but that's the way I have to do it. That's the way, because this is the way the world is, and this is the way I have to respond to it. And the guides are saying, is it? So eerie. My neighbor just started their car. Is that funny? I know. Mine all leave earlier than that, so it's so I was hearing them all at like 5:30 in the morning and stuff. Yeah, it's like, what is it? What's required? And again, and I think it's not telling us to like we'll get off this live stream and everyone's going to sit here and think really hard about it. I think it's a matter of kind of getting the idea. The idea is kind of the seed, and then let's see where that goes. See what kind of synchronicities you have during the day. A lot of you do your own readings and so forth, so it's a question of, pull a card, like, okay. And the question I think would be, what's the thing that needs to be, what project, thing, or whatever needs to be resolved? What is the thing? The other place my guide said that would be helpful, again, if you've had a life path reading with me, you'll have all this information, but I mean, others of you are pretty proficient in astrology. So if you look at where your Pluto is, if you look at where your Chiron is, if you look at where Saturn is, and you look at where the South Node are, if you look at all of those, that's all the habit. That's all where you're coming from. Now we are having classes. I did post them yesterday. I don't know if people saw them. I posted a lot of January classes, and I've tried to make them on the weekends, and I've tried to make them at times where people are in the UK that they can participate. But we've got this thing, where we're kind of saying, okay, that would be the point. Like, I pulled some cards for myself this morning. I said, okay, well, where is the completion that I need to make? And they're saying yours pertains to your family. Okay, and certain family situations, which I won't get into here just because they're more personal. But so everybody's going to have a certain thing. And by the way, the thing isn't always meaning like, this is going to be a Hallmark movie where we're just everybody's suddenly going to get along and it's going to be harmonious in the end. Yes. And Alex says, yes, I'll be signing up for several. Awesome. Yeah, because I have, I wanted to I know I've been talking about it, so I'm like, yeah, let's get this on the calendar for people. Okay, our inner feeling of which we're unaware is the master. Okay? This is whoever the master is for us. Whether if you don't have a guru, it could be your inner voice, it could be your spirit guides, whoever it is. They're the ones that are driving, going, hey, this is what's happening here. And you look at it as a question. What if you didn't do things? What if the response was not the same response? But again, when we have these kinds of automatic responses, Alex says, it sounds like a lot of this may be internal for folks. If I'm picking up the message right. Exactly. Right. It's the other rune that comes up is, and she's saying me too as well. Yeah, is Manaz. Manaz is the rune, and that is the rune of the self. Okay? And again, when I bring up the self, it's not like saying, oh, well, you better look at yourself because, you're broken and got to be fixed or something. No. All of us, it's because our kind of like, we'll kind of go back to something that Joanne had said at one point, that they have to be the example, right? That we lead by example. And so the question is, okay, but what is it exactly that we're doing? And kind of trying to be cognizant of what we're doing, not to be ashamed of ourselves and say, oh, I did this bad, I did this wrong, or I didn't do this thing. I mean, we might go through different feelings, and I think people need to go through feelings. I don't want to do the should and shouldn't about what you should feel about anything, because I think our feelings are there for a reason, right? But we don't want to be, it's like the Philoctetes thing I had talked about in Greek mythology. You don't want to be stuck there forever in that feeling. You want to let that feeling pass through you, and at some point that feeling, maybe leads you to the frustration leads you to a different solution, right? So in other words, the fact that, so it's disturbed you, good. Like, it's like, that's kind of the idea that the disturbance is meant to make you say, yeah, you're finding that's not working. Okay, why don't you start with the play? Why don't you find a new way? Maybe it's time to shed the disapproval of others and the self. Well, exactly. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Suda, because part of what's come up, like one of the things I saw was a lot of third house stuff. People being confident in what you say, not letting other people's reactions and whatever dampen your voice. That's another piece of this. Because a lot of times we say, okay, because one possible narrative that you could look at that people might have is, well, and a lot of it is around voice, because if you say to somebody, okay, if I say something to you and if I feel, or if I say something, it's probably better if it's like in front of a group, like I'm standing in front of a group of people and I make a statement about something and everybody gets silent and kind of, you start to feel this tension in the room. And then you think, oh, I should not have said that. Or even if you're doing it in a one-to-one interaction, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that to that person. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not going to like me now. Maybe I need to pull back. Maybe this, maybe that. Blah, blah, blah. Our brains do that. We start worrying that we've used our voice in a way that people don't like. And then, so that's a very natural thing that happens. And that's one of the messages was no, project your voice with confidence. Like there's a lot of that. Remember we were talking about Leo energy. No, project your voice with confidence. Even if something isn't, Suda says, I talked to a friend I admire over the weekend and she was adamant that my stance was the way. She's so much braver than I am. That's interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. And again, depending on what it is, we have to go with, I think a lot of times it's kind of like, as we're moving through, it's like, where do we find ourselves blocked? And the question is the block more that we feel we've done something wrong and have to pull back? Or is the block that, even if we know that we're right, like, is there a different way of negotiating it maybe? Like, what's the way to make the voice heard? Now, we're not always going to make it heard in a way that everybody's going to approve of, and that's fine. There's never going to be a case, no matter who you are, I mean, just, the proverbial Jesus Christ could come back and everybody have something, to say, there'd be somebody criticizing him somewhere, again, that's maybe not a great example, but you know what I mean? Like, but a lot of people will think, will act like, if we think about that as a thing having to do with, perfection and so forth, right? There's no perfect way to do it. And yeah, the external feeling, oh, and they would, haha, oh yeah, especially now, yeah, if you actually really think about that, that's a whole different topic, right? But comparison, this is what we're aware of. And that's literally what I was just saying. I need to be careful because, I have to worry about how other people perceive me. I have to worry that the world's not going to accept this. I have to worry that I'm not what people want me to be. And it's really, that's the manaz. That comes back to the self. No, who are you? And what pattern are you repeating to try to compromise that, right? To say, that, it's like kind of like we're seeing a lot about community. It's time to get out into the world. It's time to be with people. But at the same time, we're like, oh yeah, but those people are all jerks and those ones treat me badly. So I just need to run away from everybody. And sometimes we do need to retreat. I mean, we're moving into winter. You need some time to yourself. But I think generally speaking, it's kind of like, how are we playing the game? How are we negotiating this? And I don't know. I think it's, whatever the answer is for each person, it's kind of saying it's more about being true to yourself and more about getting back to that space where you are, where again, that's more childlike, where you're more open, right? Yeah, friendliness. That's our card. Friendliness. So, yeah, we were talking about this Gemini full moon. We're talking about all of this ideas around partnership, that it seemed 12-12 portal is also around partnership. The thing that it's kind of trying to tell us is like, almost like the world's okay, people are okay, and, the world doesn't hate you and isn't out to destroy you. I mean, that may be part of it. It may be just kind of say like, it's okay, come out, you don't necessarily need to hide. The outcome here then, yeah, it's a matter of resolving the past. The Six of Cups. Our image maybe of who we are or what we should be or what other people are, looking to the past. And again, if the past has been less than ideal, which unfortunately it is for a lot of people, and I mean, it's part of the process of growing up. I mean, as we grow up, we're all going to have experiences along the way. We'll have pleasant experiences maybe, and then we also have some that are losses, at worst, sometimes traumatic. But then it's like, but again, this is reconciling of the past. It's kind of like, yeah, you can move out into the world, but you need to reconcile the past first. You want to look at that and say, what is the repeating pattern here? And the reason they're pointing it out too is because when you repeat that pattern, that's when you say, I want to let go of grief. I want to let go of anxiety. I want to feel good. I want to feel happy. I want to get up every day and feel peace with what I'm doing. And Joanne says, boom, chakalaka, right? I want to feel happy. I want to feel peace in the world. And it's kind of saying you can. It's just that you have this belief that, whatever we've set up to make ourselves feel safe, we're afraid to leave that spot. We're afraid to, come out of the cage, or we're afraid to come out of it because, yes, but the world out there is bad and everybody hates us. And it's just kind of like saying, that might not be the case. But a lot of it does come to feeling secure in ourselves, because the confidence is the other piece of it, to say, no, you know what? I know who I am. Maybe what I am doesn't suit everybody, and that's fine. Then I just don't have to engage with those people, right? Some people will like what I do, and some people won't. And, that just is what it is. If I'm, doing what I feel is authentic to me, if I know I'm making an honest effort in the world to do what I feel is the right way. If I do things and I feel like I'm constantly being blocked, then it might be like, okay, well, maybe it's time, like, what if I did it this way instead? Rather than making it a judgment on yourself, like, oh, F that up, and do it more like, well, okay. It's like when you look at a puzzle, right? And you're sure that this piece is going to fit here, right? It's got to go there. It doesn't. Okay. Well, now we got to try a different piece, and yeah, it's just, even though it looks like it should be the right thing, okay, well, what else is, your question, Suda, what else is there, right? And the fact that you were saying I don't get it, I'm like, yeah, because we're like, well, what is that? So that's the thing that, okay, we're starting from the space of what is the thing that's not working, right? Yeah, what is the thing that's not working? And okay, so if you figure out what that thing is, it's like, okay, this doesn't seem to be working. Then maybe the kind of play, maybe that's why, again, it could be different for different people. Some people are called to deal with it creatively. Some people, you need to write story about it. Not for lack of trying. Well, no, exactly. Oh, and that's actually a good point too. I'm glad you mentioned the word trying, because a lot of times too, when we're thinking about things, it's that double-edged sword of consciousness, right? On the one hand, it's like, yes, we need to have a conscious awareness of it, but we don't necessarily see it in the body. We think, oh, well, it can't be me. It can't be the thing that I'm doing. That's got to be the right thing. And again, there may have been a time when that was the right thing. So it's not, what I don't want in saying any of this is anybody to feel like, oh, look at you were bad and made a mistake and now you have to do it differently. It's just like, no, it's like the Eight of Cups energy. Okay, maybe that may have worked before. That may have helped. Like in a certain situation, like that pulled you through, and good for you. Like that's, you did what you did, and even if you didn't do it nobody does anything perfectly. To be human, we have this obsession now that everything has to be perfect and done perfectly, and you can never say or do anything that offends anyone, and you can never act in a way or do something, or if you produce something that sounds slightly off, then like you're a failure at it. Like, we need to get out of that way of thinking. That's not, you are a human being. Yes, sometimes you're going to make mistakes and things, but that may be one of the things we need to think about differently. Making a mistake is okay. It's not that you're not a terrible person for making a mistake. You're a normal human being trying to figure stuff out. And but you should still be confident in the sense that, kind of like what you said, I'm doing the best that I can, right? I'm doing the best that I can. And I think if we just listen to the heart space, we don't have to overthink it. If you listen to the heart space and you pay attention to synchronicity, like I said, pay attention to dreams. If you do readings, pull a couple cards, think about what they're trying to tell you about it. People who have a better connection with their spirit guides, like, without, like a connection that they don't feel like they need intervention necessarily. And we all, I think, need it sometimes, but whatever it feels like, if we feel like our guides are saying something to us, what are they saying? And that's the thing that, because eventually that's what it does is the more that it gets to us on the deeper level, which I think is also why we're being called a lot to do more art and things like that, is because that works in this space, the conscious ego space, always is talking itself in circles. It's the space back here that works in image, the one that art connects to. That's the one that is trying to help us make that change. So anyway, this has kind of become like a kind of a strange live stream this morning, but that was kind of what came up for me last night. And it was almost like crazy. Like when I was talking to my guides this morning, they were like, yes, that's it. That's the thing. That's, ding, 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 you hit the right thing. You hit the $100,000 thing and and the Price is Right wheel, you won the big prize, right? Yeah. You find that kind of a thing. And so that's the first step. But of course that doesn't mean that there isn't any work involved. But I think also there's a sense that indeed, right, and Alex says it's exactly where I'm at right now. So it seems strange, but very much relatable. And I think, like I said, this is something that I'm seeing as a pattern with a lot of people right now. And I think whether you want to talk about it as being connected to the astrology or not, that's the message right now. That's the message. So, yeah, and I think people are all trying to have their own ways of negotiating it. Like I said, maybe some people do need a timeout to work through some emotions and so forth, which is fine. Everybody has to work it out in their own way, and people have to feel safe working things out in their own way. And we don't have to crack the whip on ourselves and say, get in line, get in shape. But grounding and engaging in certain discipline practices can help, I think. Taking time out to meditate, taking time out to do stuff to kind of center where we're at, or to be able to, or just to be able to hear ourselves, because a lot of times as we're going through something, if that little voice comes through, there's another voice going, but that last time that didn't work, and da da da. So yeah, it's almost like saying, let that kind of put that voice over here. And say, what is the other side of the conversation? What's trying to be said here? So anyway, hope this gives some food for thought. But that did come up this morning very, very strongly. And I feel it in this space really strongly. So that's why I call it an epiphany, or not like an aha moment, because it was coming up in dreams and I've been seeing it repeatedly. And when you see that, I'm like, okay, there's the synchronicity. There's something about this right now. And it is about what's happening to other people. It may also be about what's happening to me, because we're all in this. We're all alive, and we're still working through the puzzle that is our life. So anyway, we are at 10 of, so I'm going to end the live stream. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I was really glad to be able to see you today, and have a happy Tuesday. I hope that you all have a good day. And I will be back again tomorrow morning. I will get back to grading. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you for your time and wisdom. Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. Glad you're able to join us in the mornings. I know you usually join me on the other live stream, so it's nice you were able to come here. Thanks, and have a great day, everybody. You are welcome. And thanks, and friends. You're welcome. Yeah. And have a great and have a great day for all of you as well. So take care.